No, everybody
Good,
looks
how are
so
you? Summery today.
you.
He's wearing shorts. She looks summery.
Cause it's getting hot.
Yes. As I was contemplating your outfit, I said,
How's it going?
yeah, I was gonna chat with you this morning, and then
I had to leave. Well, that's great. I saw the crowd out there. I drove by this last Thursday.
Yeah, as fast as we can make sandwiches and get people in and out.
Oh, good. Well, that's
We're getting
great.
messages from people all the time. So I tried to come by, but there's nowhere to park.
Well, that's great.
good problem to have.
You don't
Y'all
walk.
can walk a little bit.
Yeah. That's what I posted.
I've parked around the corner
Somebody said
twice.
Somebody messaged or said something on Facebook to us about where to park. So well, we have two spaces in the back. We'll find you can park
Just
in
go to the
the,
pool
up on the next block and,
and
walk
go
back.
get dessert on the way.
Some things are worth
And
walking for.
I walked across the street today. Whoa!
Hold on.
Next thing you know, you'll be wearing a Garmin watch and dropping flip feet all the time.
No, people will go. So the people will go for a run or go for a walk in the park, but they will not park and walk.
Right.
Those are two distinctly different things. Yeah. That's right. That's all right.
But we will walk.
For if there is anyone in Facebook land, as soon as Mr. Paradise returns, we're going to start the meeting just because it's 6 o'clock. So just want to make sure if anyone was virtual that they would know.
One meeting virtual, but it was cutting out a lot.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Ready, Miss Paradise? Okay, all right. So, good evening, everyone, and we are going to start our regular meeting of the North Augusta Planning Commission. Today's date is May 21st. If I could please have a roll call.
Aaron Slade.
Brett Harbison.
Jesse Elliott.
Lisa Christine. Chelsea Watto.
And I'm your chair, Christine Crawford. All right. If we could, did anyone have any edits or changes to the minutes? And if not, could I please have a motion to accept them?
So moved.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you. Mr. Paradise, are there any changes to the agenda?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So we will get started with SP 24-002, Savannah River Storage Major Site Plan. Mr. Paradise, what would you like to share with us about this application?
Yes, ma'am. I think everybody on the commission is probably familiar with the site. It's the old Kmart, as I refer to it, on Highway 1, here on Jefferson Davis Highway. It's 11.73 acres zoned thoroughfare commercial. The plan is for mini warehouse and storage with 929 units. The special exception was approved by Board of Zoning Appeals to allow it in the thoroughfare commercial district on June 6th of 24. They also granted two variances for the project. One was a reduction in the parking ratio from the requirement of 84 spaces to 19, and a reduction of the required impervious surface ratio from a maximum of 70% to 76%. And with that, I would point out that the existing, as it sits today, we're at 92% impervious surface. So we headed in the right direction. They complied with both of these variances during the site plan review. This is the old Kmart. This is a concept plan of what the site will look like. And I missed the one I was looking for. I just went right by it. But it's proposing 929 units, and it's in 9 separate buildings that vary, and the units vary from size from 5 by 10, 12 by 35. 788 units will be inside buildings, and 141 units will be under canopy or RV boat storage type parking. And I'm open to any questions that you might have.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Paradise at this moment? All right. That being said, if we have any members of the public and for the applicant as well, we ask that when you come to the microphone that you give your name and address, and we'll ask the applicant to come forward first, and then we'll open it up to the community for any questions. And then at that time, we'll have all members of the community ask their questions and have you return to answer them at one time. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening. Barry Sherman, address 8084 South Wallace Court, Inglewood, Colorado. Pleasure to be here tonight, Madam Chair and Commission. Thank you. We've been, it's thrilled to be back here again. It's been cold in Colorado. We certainly like it around here. So, our team's been working wonderfully, and I give a ton of kudos to the staff that's helped us through the journey here. We first located the site, and we do this in various portions around the country. We're thrilled to come in and seeing how we can rehab an old structure and bring a community need. Spent a lot of time trying to ensure that the need was going to be had, and which we've done. So we're here tonight to answer any questions. We bring in a professional kind of management team. We've got a lot of security on site to make sure it's well run. No noise, no sound, no light pollution, and we hope that we're bringing an asset to the community to fill the need for a variety of sources. So I can be long-winded, but maybe I'll pause and see if you have any questions, but pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you.
Are there any questions at this time for you? Wait. Okay. All right. So, Mr. Sherman, if you could, we'll see. Are there any questions from the community?
These are my two colleagues. So
oh, okay. I wasn't sure, so yes. I was like, let me offer and make sure. Okay. So then, there being none, are there any other questions from the commissioners? So the boats and the RVs, according to the sketch, are up at the front. Is that the?
Yeah, we wanted to utilize the old parking lot, which we're going to take and remill. And as Tommy pointed out, that pond you see there, we're going to add additional storm water to make sure we meet current code in regards to that. We're beefing up the landscaping, and that's going to be covered boat and RV opportunity, all secured out in front there. Correct.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Mr. Sherman? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sherman. We may call you back up, but I think we're
all right. Thank you.
All right. So my question is more for Mr. Paradise around, and I don't know if we could put it on if there's interest with the rest of the commissioners about what would it look like if the waivers were only for thoroughfare, and then by right was only industrial, because I think by now you can do waivers for general commercial for the same size facility. Is that correct?
Correct. If and this is a conversation that we had earlier today, if there's a question about not this application, but if as one developer told me that was looking at an existing mini warehouse storage, I asked the question, why are we getting so many applications? He said, because you're not oversaturated yet. And the word oversaturated, that word stuck out to me. But we're seeing a lot of these. So, this one it is what it is, and it's before the planning commission legitimately. But going forward, is there getting to be too many of these in the city? Is this something that y'all want to look at? And if it is, they're allowed in the general commercial and the thoroughfare commercial zoning districts by special exception from the BZA. So they require a hearing and have to meet certain criteria to be allowed. The other one is the industrial zoning district, and it's allowed by right there. But if that was something that y'all wanted to look at going forward as to whether to allow it or not allow it in the general commercial or the thoroughfare commercial, if you wanted to add it to additional zoning districts, or if you wanted to, as I put it, after the Georgia Avenue traffic calming study, if we wanted to do a use diet and cut down where this particular use could be at, I see y'all nodding and understand what I'm talking about. That could be done. Now, that would be a text amendment through the Planning Commission, make a recommendation to City Council, and then City Council, after public hearing both places, we vote it up or down. But that's over there. This application's here before you tonight. And based on the standards that's in place at the time, staff is recommending adoption of this particular one.
Yeah. So I just wanted to ask the question and see. I know I'm interested. I wanted to see if there was interest from the rest of the planning. Look at it, because so this one is what it is, but it was a stark. I hadn't thought about 900 and something units until this, and so want to make sure that we kind of going forward think about what that could look like as we are revisiting different things in the code in general. So, all right. So that being said, are there any other questions about this particular application? Okay. None being said, is there a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion to recommend to City Council with the conditions of any outstanding comments to be addressed to the satisfaction of city staff.
All right. I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Thank you, Mr. Sherman.
Tommy, just random question. That weird turn that's right on the corner there to Hamburg. Well, you can't really see it on this plat.
Right.
Is there anything ever in the works to do anything with that?
There is actually some discussion about doing a gateway study in combination with the county on Jefferson Davis Highway and come down to Martintown or Atomic Road on Martintown, and it'd go from Cloverleaf to the state line and then down East Buena Vista and Martintown to Atomic Road would be the coverage area. I'm waiting on the box to be checked from administration to move forward with that. And that would be in partnership with Aiken County. It would be, if we were to pursue that, there would be an 80-20 split. And then that 20 we would split with the county. And then the 80% would be from a grant from the state through the arts. The one thing on this one thing on this that came up with the variances is, as you see, is they'll close off that back entrance there where people have been using this as a cut through for years. And, that's sad, but it is what it is. And, it's going to be secured. So you can't secure it and have an open driveway through there. Does that kind of answer your question? But both us and the county would like to look at that cloverleaf there.
Some opportunity. Yep.
All right. So, Mr. Paradise, next is we have a discussion around the recommendation by the BZA about internally illuminated signage in downtown mixed use 1 and 2 with regards to halo lighting in particular. So if you could please.
Yes, ma'am.
And let me ask for one clarity. Do we need a formal vote to recommend further action, or is it that we need to then schedule a study session based on?
Well,
What's
if,
next
if,
step?
if
What would be-
I've got it teed up, for y'all to discuss a little bit tonight for a study session, and then if y'all want to move forward with it, we'll need to advertise it and put it before let the public come talk about it next time. But basically, the BZA granted a variance January the 7th for the halo illuminated signage next door. That one's 50 at the old Medac building, Augusta Oncology. And then May 6th, they approved halo illumination for the wall signage at Beacon Bluff at 200 George Avenue. And the board, with two of the applications coming back to back like that, they wondered if maybe the rules needed to be looked at. So they asked for the planning commission to look at it. And there's a memorandum that I included in your packet and some information. And I'm sorry about the color. We had the copy guy come work on the color today. But halo illumination is also known as reverse lit. Basically, it shines to light out the back, and then the light goes around the sides of the letters, and they're supposed to be, not my words, other words, they're more elegant and sophisticated looking. And they do create a more soft and subtle glow than the direct light coming out. And this is, and I tried to do a bit better here too. The blue is your downtown mixed use 1. The red is your downtown mixed use 2. And you'll see downtown mixed use 1 is primarily George Avenue, and the rest is number 2. The commission has several options. 1, you could do nothing. 2, you could do it in downtown 1. You could do it in downtown 2, or you could do it in both downtown 1 and 2, or some other option that I don't think of off the top of my head. So this is Swank. Now this is zone plan development. This isn't zone downtown. So this was allowed there. But this is an example of what the light looks like. And this is a little bit better, I think, than what you got in your packet. And this is Brinkley's. It's a little bit closer. But again, you can see how the light shines to the back and not through the light. So, what if you wanted to move forward with it? And these are just options. It's certainly the Planning Commission. But one thing we'd need to do is have a definition. What is halo illumination? What do we mean by it? Rather than what does this sign company mean? This sign company means something different. What does it mean in North Augusta? So Cully and I wordsmith this that you can agree with, disagree with it, change it around however you want to do it. Basically said that halo signs are a form of internal sign illumination in which neon tubing, LED, or similar lights are mounted within the sign or individual letter to eliminating the mounting surface to the rear, causing a halo of light around the sign or individual lighting. Lighting is not allowed to project toward the front of the sign. We thought we had it captured there. You may want to add, subtract, move. However, that's just an idea that we wanted to put out there as some guidance and help as discussion starter. And then where would you make that change at? If you wanted to make that change, where would it be? Well, I think, and again, this is just a suggestion for conversation and to get the discussion started, but I think looking at it, 9.6.3b says sign, and this is regulating signs in the downtown mixed-use districts, says signs shall not be internally illuminated, period. I think if we put signs shall not be internally illuminated except by halo illumination, we could probably capture allowing that if that was what the intent was from the Planning Commission. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And I'm looking for some guidance. If the Planning Commission wants to say, no, we don't want to talk about it, or bring me something back next month, or, what is some path forward.
So if you could go back to where you delineate between downtown 1 and 2, please. Okay. So just so for reference, I think, is there interest in the text amendment, objection to, feedback?
Can I ask Mr. Paradise a question first? Are there any active variance requests related to halo illumination at the moment?
No, ma'am.
They've all been approved or unapproved?
Yes, there's no applications in process.
Okay, great, thanks. Then yes, I think we should definitely.
And mine's more of a question. So just thinking of, people going outside the box if we don't kind of keep the text in the box. So, and this may be my ignorance as to how this works, but do we say, limited to X lumens, like we don't want it to be Vegas style, too bright, or is that something we need to put in text? I don't know. I guess I'm kind of asking that it's not flashing, that it has to be solid. I'm just trying to think of where you could. Yeah, I'm just thinking just to be a little clear because we don't want Vegas, North Augusta.
But I feel like maybe some colors, like a bluish or a greenish or something, but not changing or not flashing. I do like that.
Well, see, yeah.
I believe I believe under the code right now, if a sign flashes, it's prohibited. Okay, so I will double check that. But I feel comfortable there. The other thing is the colors.
Is there anything also, another thing I was thinking about is like maintenance on them? Because I think we've all seen those signs that 2 of the 5 letters are out and it says something totally different. I think there should be some, and like I said, this might be something in there in the signage part that talks about maintenance. I think there should be some responsibility of upholding, keeping it working right.
There is a maintenance that you cannot let it become unsafe and that type of thing. But as far as the bulbs burning out, that's kind of a maintenance and an owner thing that if you wanted to put something in there, we certainly could. But typically the business community handles that. I mean, if there's some particular ones that you know of, I'll be glad to look at them. But
I'm not trying to name anybody right here.
Well, but I was gonna say, but I mean that becomes an enforcement issue and a burden on them from enforcement. So I don't know that. And I will, somebody who's had those, even somebody who has good intentions with supply chain and waiting on the one person to fix it in the in the CSRA. So that's not. I mean, so you get into then. I gotta wait on a book. I mean, because it ain't like you just go to Lowe's, right? So, so it is. I think getting into regulating that is a bit of a challenge.
And I can tell you that our community with the signage is still recovering from the hurricane. You still see signs. Burger King on Martintown just got replaced a couple weeks ago, and that was hurricane damage. So, whenever you, and Dr. Crawford may be able to speak to this better than I can, when you have a hurricane come through and all the Burger Kings, the McDonald's, the different chains loses their signs, and they're all manufactured at one place, one supplier,
And again, it's not even that. There is, I mean, it used to be, and unless somebody else has come in, there's one person locally who does everybody. So not just Burger King's, but does Burger King, McDonald's, and does them all the way down to Savannah. So it is it is more than a notion. Yeah. So, but I think the other question is, I do agree with the lumens piece because I don't know how bright. And you don't want somebody. I mean, you don't know what this stuff is going to look like years from now, but you also don't want somebody to have some weird reflective surface behind it and do something odd either.
And I don't know if I'm asking that question in the right way. I'm just thinking where it's not overly bright. I think we've all seen something. We've driven up on something. You're just like, oh, I can't see. So
Well, so you said the swing signage is down in planned development. What code is governing the allowable signage for them? What does it say?
The plan development has its, I would have to go, as you know, when y'all approve a plan development recommendation on an ordinance, it is a ordinance that's not in the book. It is an ordinance that's specific to that project that details how that project is supposed to be developed. And so typically they refer back to, with signage, typically they'll refer to some particular code or something that we may have an effect at the time. But I would have to go back and look that Hammond's Ferry, Riverside Village, PD up, to actually tell you. It does not say, I can tell you, it does not say halo illuminated sign. We have never dealt with it before. What it doesn't do is it doesn't prohibit internally illuminated signs. And that's something that also right now, anywhere that internally illuminated signs are allowed, if they want to do halo illumination, they may. That's part of an internal illumination. Where this comes in is these zoning districts, you're not allowed to have any internal illumination. So that's why the halo illumination is not allowed. There's some discussion about whether that's appropriate in the district or not, and that's why you have the ask.
I have a question. In the memorandum, section 9.3, externally illuminated signs and signs on which the letters or graphics are constructed of neon tubing are permitted. Is that correct? Currently, you can do neon tube lights?
Correct. Yes, sir. And if that's something that y'all want to address at the same time, that would,
Hey, right, you need a microphone.
Halo lighting, I'm sorry. Under the definition of the halo lighting, do we need to mention the letters being opaque so that it doesn't, so we don't have the letters that are shining,
Yeah.
so that it can't shine through the lights and the color?
that's me. That's why I say,
And just a side note, when this came up, I think last year when we first talked about it, I asked some people, I'm like, what do you think if you come up Georgia Avenue? What do you want to see? And I found it like, do you want to see these halo lights, and use Brinkley's as an example? And more people than I thought would respond said they didn't like it because they wanted more of that, classic lit over. But people of my age were like, I like the halo because then I can see the sign from the road. So when I'm driving, it's easier to identify. But it was an interesting disparity between who liked it and who didn't. And there was more folks than I thought. And, personally, I like it. But then I thought that we're like, no, leave the Georgia corridor kind of old fashioned. So.
And I'll say, I think I like it, right? But then the idea of what if everybody on Georgia Avenue had those halo lit signs, would I like that? And that's because once we then change the text amendment, then everybody could go and update, and then do we want? So I think.
One thing I would point out as it relates to that is the maximum square footage for signage remains the same, correct? So it's 200 square feet per building. So everybody who needed to halo illuminate their sign would have to, if they were grandfathered in, would have to convert to the 200 square feet, correct? To be compliant.
Well, I think, and I don't have that size chart in front of me. I think it is 200 square feet maximum for wall signage. And I think there is a, so many feet per linear footage on the front.
Yes.
So that might be less than 200, and they may be limited in size there with some of the smaller parcels downtown.
For reference, it does say downtown mixed use 1 and 2 is 100 maximum square feet, actually, and 10% of the ground floor area.
Well,
6 linear feet of frontage.
okay. See, so that would, and that 100 was changed in a text, should have been changed to 200 when we did the text amendments a few months back because it conflicts in another part of the code. But so those would be what would apply. If you have an existing non-conforming sign up there, you can work it, reface it, whatever. But you don't get technology upgrades. To me, this would be a technology upgrade going from non-illuminated to illuminated. So they would have to meet the current standards.
Right. I guess my point is, I don't think everybody's going to go out and convert their signs to halo lighting because they're going to have to conform to all the standards of the new signage, and I don't think that they will.
Well, but I mean, but this text amendment is that they could, and so it's not. I mean, you have to always. I just always prefer to think of the more extreme example as we change things, than because you could say a developer came in and bought up all of Georgia Avenue, made all of, everybody an offer they couldn't refuse, and we changed it. Then we're stuck, and I just want to.
Well, that was my thought, was similar. If, so say someone bought that whole strip on the left side, and then this business has a green one, and this one has a purple one, and this one has a white one, but this one has one that's a little bit brighter white than the one next door. It's kind of yellowy, and then you're getting a very Vegas-y looking, strip.
And to get in the weeds a little bit, different types of lighting gives off different colors. And you can see that with street lights. So, if it's LED versus halogen or some other type bulb, it may be through and be the same color. You can, but what I'm saying is if I got an LED and I've got a fluorescent, both these bulbs meet the criteria, okay, for aluminums okay. So this one gives off a very clear, crisp white light. This one, whenever it's illuminated, gives off a muddy, yellowish tint light. They would both comply. And I don't know. We're getting in the weeds, and it might, but it may be that you want to be specific on the type of illumination it can be.
Well, that might be the thing. There was a little uniformity.
I've got this question: when the BZA approved these last couple, what all stipulations did they have? Did they talk about any of this information with the colors and the brightness and any of that? Or
the copy of that signage was included in the information packet, and the colors and that type of stuff was not discussed.
I think y'all have talked me out of it in the last couple of minutes, and so I actually I think personally am fine with it being case by case in the BZA because again, North Augusta is growing and is wonderful, and so it's not that far removed that somebody could come in and buy up large chunks of both of these and change it to look a certain way.
Will you put the map back up? The downtown mixed use?
Yeah, it's not that bad.
I mean, if we just did the blue, I don't know.
Well, the blue would be Georgia
That's
Avenue.
Georgia Avenue.
The red would be West Avenue, so.
Yeah, it sounds like we're just kind of leaning towards let the BZA handle it case by case. I hope they don't hate us for that, but
Questions, if that's the will of the BZA, or excuse me, Planning Commission, that's fine. I've done what I'm supposed to do. I asked the question, y'all gave me the answer, we'll move forward with it.
And certainly if they, if it becomes an issue and they've got, two more in the next, month or two, and it's a continuous thing, then certainly we can revisit it. But I think,
I mean, I think if the traffic calming and everything happens as envisioned on Georgia, I would see new business coming and these requests maybe hitting Georgia Avenue. I think it would be worth it to put some conditions like the lumens or the color, just to, if it does come up, where BZA has at least that guidance, because I did look and I don't see anything there either.
now how does it go? I know as far as exceptions, sometimes if you give somebody an exception and then another person with very similar situation asks for the same exception, it's hard for us to say no because we said yes already. Does the BZA stuff work like that? So if somebody else comes and says, "Hey, you did it for them and for them, you got to do it for us too."
Yeah, yes and no.
Okay, that's clear as mud.
As I tell the board, the BZA, each application stands on its own. Okay, so the criteria has to be met for each application. Because you approve it at one place doesn't mean that next door can automatically get it and be approved. They got to make the case. They got to win the case. However, you have set a precedent. You have said these criteria allow this action. So, yes, in that way, it does affect the decisions, I think, of the board or gives them some guidance. But the applicant also has to meet the hurdle, meeting all the criteria. And that's why I say yes and no.
and I think that, Tommy, if I don't know, we'll all remember this, but I think that's a great question for the continuing ed if we do the same format this fall with the lawyer to maybe share with us what the difference between kind of precedent versus an individual decision looks like with regard to both the planning commission and the BZA.
Yeah.
That'd be I think a good conversation for all of us to have together. Continuing ed.
I feel like we're leaning towards let's leave it alone for now. But I also feel like as much discussion as there is still around it, there probably should eventually be something in there that does really get into the details of all these things we've talked about.
I second that because the problem I see with just putting everything to the BZA is there's still no teeth to our ordinance.
Right.
And they could come with anything and get it. Not with, with it still being approved, but at least we would have some guidelines on type of light, temperature, it needs to be a solid color. We would have that set for.
Well,
but right now there's nothing. Somebody could come with a red deck backlit.
right.
Neon tubing would even have to go in
so
front of it.
let's back up. There's two separate issues. So one is even if we put in guidance and restrictions, unless we were allowing it, right? So if we did not allow, then it still would be at the discretion of the BZA to make changes. So even if we said, for example, if I said I don't want halo lighting at all, right? I think that's the way that we should proceed. Then the exception is what the BCA is. If we say halo lighting with the following constraints, an exception that goes before the BZA still is an exception that goes before the BZA. So that does not change, right? So us adding more teeth. So there is are we interested in allowing it? Or are we interested in allowing it with some very constrained parameters, knowing that the BZA still can make an exception even on those parameters?
Yes.
So that's only if you're interested in but that's if you're interested
I'm interested in changing and allowing it to have some sort of cohesiveness for somebody to follow. Because right now, I think we're open to a very wide range of different types of lit, unlit, neon lit.
So,
sign.
so if we are open, so if there is interest in halo lighting for, is it all of downtown one or downtown one mixed two also?
So I did a quick count of the buildings in DT1, mixed use one. I'm quick. I have like 28 buildings, give or take. So personally, and those are existing, like you're saying, is somebody going to make the investment to change it over? So if we say it's, personally, I'm thinking maybe it's good there and maybe not in mixed use too, because that's a whole lot more buildings in that. I don't know. To kind of go to Tommy's point, you could do one, but not the other.
So, okay. So, hearing that, if there is interest, then if we could get some information, Tommy, on lumens, lettering, how to do a more precise change and allow for halo lighting, temperature, all of those things, color, and then and then have a and then have another discussion around it, given that information. So that's one. The second is, and I think there is consensus around scheduling a texted amendment change to get rid of neon lighting.
Yes.
Okay, so that because that text amendment can proceed, so that conversation can proceed without the other. Because I think right, because I get the sense, yeah, and I get to the sense that there's still a lot more. We are still quite a ways away from consensus on halo lighting, even with constraints. So if we could proceed with the text amendment around getting rid of neon lighting, and then what would halo lighting with far more detailed information in the code included look like?
I think I got it.
All right.
And I had not realized this till y'all started talking about color. Look at Swank.
Mm-hmm.
It's blue.
And that's what we couldn't tell.
Yeah.
And see, I think it looks fine. I don't think you need to say only white. I think, but I do agree with like the flashing from green. Pink,
But see,
orange.
but do you want blue next door to pink, next door to orange, next door to green? And I don't want at this point. I don't want any of it personally, like anymore. Yeah, but I mean, but it is, but it's not just this one building. It is whatever we allow potentially being that entire corridor and the entire back corridor. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great way to.
And like for instance, on this page with the BB, it says all LED lighting to change colors simultaneously. So I'm like, are they
allowed to change colors?
I guess they're having colors that are gonna change. But it's like, do you want every business? But that'll look nice on that tower, you know. But then it's like when you start going, it'll be like everybody's turning colors.
Okay. All right. So I think we've got that straight. Is there anything else you need from us to proceed, Ms. Paradise?
As if I can kind of recap it.
Yes, please.
Is bring you back more information to discuss on halo illumination, and come back with a text amendment to do away with neon lighting downtown.
Yes. All right. That being said, next on the agenda is the staff report for April.
As usual, I always forget to do this part. We stay busy, and you know, it kind of is what it is, and I don't really know anything to tell you.
I have a question just in general. I had someone ask, what's the general turn time when a builder comes to you and says, hey, I need a building permit?
We don't do building permits. That's in building standards downstairs.
Okay. Do we know
do
what the
developers.
general, do you know what the general turn time is?
I don't.
Okay. They just said, is there any way to make it faster? I'm like, I don't know.
What I tell people, well, I can tell you the turn time with development is that whenever you submit a set of plans to us, we'll have our comments we'll either have the set approved or comments back to you in 30 days. Now, how long it takes your engineer to get it turned around and back to us, that's on you. So I can't tell you how long it's going to take you to get this project through the pipeline. A lot of that's between you and your engineer.
All right, well, as always, we thank you, Mr. Paradise, for all that you all do and that you continue to be busy. And as long as you're busy, that means we are growing and that we on the Planning Commission and the BZA have jobs. So thank you. If there's no other business, then adjourn.